pretty amazing story of Pedro Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
You probably know him now from, huge shows like The Last of Us, The Mandalorian,
Right.
or maybe you even remember him way back from Game of Thrones. Such an unforgettable role.
Oh, definitely.
But beyond those characters, there's this genuinely fascinating, sometimes kind of unbelievable journey he's been on.
Yeah.
So our mission today is basically to uncover some of the, let's say, lesser-known bits, the surprising stuff about his life. From his early days right up to becoming this Hollywood icon.
Sounds good.
We've gathered a whole lot of interesting stuff, so let's just dive right in. One of the first things that really made me go, wow, was his life before the acting really took off.
Right. It's really fascinating because before Pedro Pascal was this big-name actor, he worked as a go-go dancer in a Madrid nightclub.
No way, really? Go-go dancing?
Yeah, it kind of makes you rethink the usual story for successful actors, doesn't it?
Totally. Picturing the guy we know now, often playing these kind of stoic characters, but younger, maybe with, I don't know, silver hair, eyeliner, platform shoes, like you said, dancing. It's a whole different image.
It really is. And you got to think that experience probably fed into his confidence, his stage presence later on.
Yeah, that willingness to just embrace performing like that so early on.
Yeah.
It must have contributed to how comfortable he seems on screen now.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the standard path.
Not at all. And think about performing live like that. It probably built up a certain physical confidence, and ease with being watched.
Good point. And speaking of beginnings and where he came from, his name itself tells a pretty big story.
Oh, yeah. His full birth name, Jose Pedro Balmaceda Pascal, that's a very clear, very proud connection to his Chilean roots.
Right, he was born in Santiago.
Exactly. And even though he's lived in the U.S. for so long, that Chilean heritage seems really important to him. You hear him speaking Spanish in interviews sometimes, and he always talks about his background with, real pride.
You really do sense that.
Yeah.
It feels very genuine, very much part of who he is. Makes you wonder how that maybe informs the characters he plays.
That's a great question. I mean, having that kind of rich cultural background, it could definitely add a unique depth, right? Maybe a wider range of experiences to pull from.
For sure. And those early years,
Yeah.
they weren't just about culture, right? His family went through some really, really tough times.
Yeah, absolutely. His early childhood was deeply affected by political turmoil. The family actually had to flee Chile. They were political refugees during Pinochet's dictatorship.
Wow.
He was just a baby then. His parents were young, liberal college students, and they were targeted.
Man, the courage that must have taken from his parents. That kind of experience, even as an infant, must leave a mark somehow.
You have to think so. That experience of displacement, seeing his parents' resilience, it could definitely shape your worldview, maybe give you a deeper understanding of hardship, things you see in some of his roles.
Definitely adds a layer. And on a more personal level, the story behind his professional name, changing it to Pascal, that's really moving.
It is. He chose Pascal professionally in his 20s, and it was after the tragic loss of his mother, Veronica Pascal Ureta. She died by suicide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Sources say she was a child psychologist and, just incredibly important to him, the love of his life. Some have quoted him saying.
That's such a powerful way to honor her memory.
Yeah.
Carrying her name into his career like that, it really says a lot.
It's striking, isn't it, how something so deeply personal, so painful, becomes part of his public identity, like a quiet, constant tribute.
Yeah. Okay, so shifting gears a bit here. This was another surprise. A totally different talent he had.
Right. Before the acting thing really took off, he was actually, get this, an award-winning competitive swimmer.
Seriously, a swimmer.
Yeah.
That's quite the contrast.
Weird, isn't it? But it kind of clicks when you think about his physicality and roles now.
Yeah, you can see it. That athletic background probably helps a lot with the action stuff, gives him that confidence.
Yeah. Exactly. And the discipline, Competitive swimming takes serious dedication. That kind of focus probably transferred pretty well to acting.
Makes sense. And even with all the Hollywood stuff, sounds like he keeps his family really close. Especially his extended family.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, he's super close with his wider family. He has something like 34 first cousins.
34? Wow.
And they have this group chat, hilariously called Sinvergüenzas.
Scoundrels. I remember him talking about that.
Yeah. He joked about it on Graham Norton, even mentioned them in his SNL monologue, telling them to stop giving out his number.
That's brilliant. It just shows how grounded he seems, still connected to this big, probably very lively family.
Totally. It's really quite charming. Okay, so next little tidbit. might explain how he keeps up that energy for his crazy schedule.
Oh, yeah. What's the secret?
Well, rumor has it, his go-to caffeine order is pretty intense. We're talking 6 shots of espresso on ice.
6 shots. Okay, wow, that's a lot of caffeine.
Right. It definitely suggests high energy levels, or maybe just needing a serious kickstart for those demanding roles.
I'd be bouncing off the walls.
Yeah,
But yeah, I guess it paints a picture of his dedication.
for sure. Okay, on maybe a lighter note, it's always fun hearing about first crushes, those pop culture moments.
Totally.
Yeah. Who was it for him?
Well, like a lot of people growing up in the early 80s, Olivia Newton-John.
Ah, okay.
Specifically, her in the Physical music video.
Oh, Physical.
Yeah.
That's actually really sweet and, super relatable. It connects him to that whole shared cultural thing.
Exactly. Even this guy playing these intense characters had that, classic, slightly cheesy 80s pop culture crush. Kind of humanizes him.
Yeah, it does. And speaking of pop culture references, he's even thought about his own, final soundtrack.
He has. He said the song he wants played at his funeral is Prince's Purple Rain.
Purple Rain. Wow. Powerful choice.
Yeah, he mentioned it during one of those Hot Wings challenges, interestingly. Said his big influences were like Prince, HBO, and Spielberg, instead of, say, religion. Huh? Interesting perspective.
And he sees Purple Rain as, emotionally cathartic, musically brilliant. It definitely gives you a little insight into what resonates with him.
For sure. Okay, so back to acting. Game of Thrones. Huge breakout role, obviously.
Massive. Oberyn Martell. Didn't last long, but made a huge impact.
Unforgettable. Especially that ending.
Right. The eye-crushing scene.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. And apparently he got some interesting fan requests after that.
He did. He was apparently super gracious about it, but fans kept asking for selfies recreating that exact moment. Thumbs in the eyes pose.
Oh my God, seriously, yeah.
To the point where he actually got an eye infection from people poking near his eyes so often for photos.
That's dedication to your fans. Maybe taken a bit too far by them, but still, his willingness.
It really is something. Shows a generosity, maybe, even with kind of weird requests. A real appreciation for their enthusiasm.
Wild. And it's fun looking back at his really early stuff, too, before he was, Pedro Pascal.
Totally. Way back in 1999, he was actually in an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy? No way.
Yeah, played a college freshman who, predictably, gets turned into a vampire and meets a bad end. He was credited as Pedro Balmaceda then.
That's amazing Buffy trivia right there.
And he popped up in other stuff, too. Guest spots on Nurse Jackie playing a concerned dad.
Uh-huh.
Even that unaired Wonder Woman pilot people talk about sometimes.
Right. It shows the journey, the different steps. It wasn't all acting. Sounds like he struggled a bit, like being a waiter.
Oh, yeah. The stories are he was a pretty terrible waiter back in New York. Got fired quite a bit, apparently.
Yeah. Relatable for struggling actors, I guess.
Definitely underscores that grind, right? Trying to make it work.
And he wasn't just acting, he was writing, too.
That's right. He wrote a play, actually, called Flacca Loves Bone, put up in New York and L.A. back in 2010.
Okay.
And get this, the New York production was directed by Sarah Silverman.
Sarah Silverman directed his play. That's a cool connection. Shows another side to his creativity.
Yeah, that interest in storytelling beyond just performing. And speaking of connections, friendships seem to have been really key for him.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. His friendship with Sarah Paulson, for instance. She was apparently instrumental in getting him the Game of Thrones gig.
How so?
She knew one of the showrunners and personally passed along his audition tape.
Wow. That's a good friend to have.
Seriously.
Huh?
And he's also really close with Oscar Isaac. They met doing an off-Broadway play way back in 2005.
Oh, okay.
Still tight friends. Those kinds of supportive relationships must be huge in that industry.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Even the Game of Thrones audition itself has a bit of a story, right?
It does. Apparently, he filmed his audition for Oberyn Martell just using the selfie mode on an old iPhone.
On an iPhone. For Game of Thrones.
Yep. Video quality wasn't great, apparently, but the performance just blew them away.
That's incredible. Yeah. Talent winning out over tech limitations.
Totally. And even filming that scene, the famous one, had its quirks.
Oh. Like what?
Well, apparently when they were filming the skull-crushing scene, it was a really hot day. The fake blood dripping on him was actually kind of cool and refreshing.
Huh? Real?
Yeah. And he apparently even nodded off for a bit between takes while covered in fake gore.
That's hilarious. Such a contrast to how intense it looks on screen.
Right. Just the weird reality of filmmaking sometimes.
And he had a bit of real-world drama on the Mandalorian set, too.
Yeah, a bit of an accident. Walked right into a piece of plywood. Ouch.
Oh, no.
He did 7 stitches on his face, right above his nose, and you can apparently see some faint marks from it in the season 1 finale when he takes the helmet off.
Ow. An unexpected souvenir from filming, I guess.
Definitely a reminder that accidents happen, even in space.
Okay, so this next role. It sounds almost perfectly cast for him, personally.
It really does seem like it. He played opposite Nicolas Cage in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Right, where he plays Cage's biggest fan.
Exactly. And the thing is, Pedro Pascal is a massive Nicolas Cage fan in real life.
So it was totally meta. A super fan playing a super fan.
Must have been such a trip for him, working so closely with someone he admired that much in that specific role.
Yeah, amazing. And it sounds like family influence popped up again with a more recent big role.
It did, yeah. With The Last of Us, he was apparently a bit hesitant about taking the part of Joel at first.
Really? Why?
Maybe just the weight of it. But his nephews, who were huge fans of the video game, they basically told him he had to do it. Their enthusiasm really pushed him to say yes.
That's awesome. Getting career advice from the nephews.
Right. Shows how much those connections matter. And speaking of the game, he kind of bent the rules for research there, too.
Oh, yeah. How?
Well, he was apparently told not to play the game too much, maybe to keep his performance fresh. But he did play some of it anyway, just to get a feel for Joel and the world. Admits he was terrible at it, though.
Gotta respect the dedication, even if the gaming skills weren't quite there.
Exactly. And it sounds like he really connected with his co-star on that show, Bella Ramsey.
Yeah, seems like they had a great bond.
They did. They apparently bonded over both being Game of Thrones alums, even though their characters never met.
Ah, right.
And he wrote her this really lovely, supportive note after they finished filming, talking about them being at different points in their careers. Just sounds like a really sweet, respectful relationship.
That's nice to hear. And, of course, we got to mention the nickname the internet gave him.
Yes. The Daddy.
Right. Stemming from those protective dad figure roles in Mandalorian and Last of Us.
Exactly. And he seems to have embraced it with pretty good humor.
Yeah, he takes it in stride. It definitely shows how much those characters resonated,
Totally. It taps into something audiences really connected with in those performances.
And his supportiveness isn't just for co-stars. It's huge within his own family, too.
Absolutely. He's known to be very close with his siblings, especially his sister, Lux Pascal, who is transgender. He's been a really vocal, really strong advocate and supporter for her.
That's fantastic. Really speaks volumes about his character, his values.
It really does. And even, his father had some legal issues in the past, but Pedro seems to have maintained a really close relationship with him, supports him publicly, shows a strong commitment to family through thick and thin.
Definitely seems that way.
Yeah.
And finally, all this work, this talent, it hasn't gone unnoticed.
Not at all. The awards and nominations have definitely stacked up over the years.
Yeah. Recognition for Game of Thrones, obviously, but also Narcos, The Mandalorian, The Last of Us.
Right. He's won things like INACI TV Awards, Gold Derby Awards for Thrones, Imagen Awards, MTV Awards for Last of Us, and then nominations for the big ones too, Emmys, Golden Globes. It's a really impressive list.
It really is. It's just, well, a testament to his skill, his dedication, and the impact he's clearly made.
Absolutely.
What an incredible story, really. I mean, from go-go dancing in Madrid. Well, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into some of the fun facts and trivia surrounding him. There's always more out there, of course. So we definitely encourage you to check out more of his work if you haven't already. Just a remarkable career.
For sure.
Okay, that's it for us today. Talk to you next time.